What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. No grand or special point to this video. Reddit makes me sick, and that's all there is to it. And that's what we're talking about today. The different ways, the many ways Reddit makes me sick. There's some kind of poison in that website. And actually, while we're here, personality database, which is, if you're watching this channel, I'm sure you're already familiar with it. Same exact thing, except personality database manages to be worse than Reddit at the Reddit game by merit of being a community of typology Redditors. Truly the worst. Anyway, back to Reddit. There is a basic hostility within Reddit. And I don't mean within particular communities or among particular users, from top to bottom. And with how popular Reddit is, I don't think Reddit started this societal shift we've been living through since 2010, but it's certainly amplifying it. And I think the reason I hate Reddit, it's two things. Well, technically three, but the third is connected with the first. One, no discussion happens there, and it's supposed to be a community of communities, a fertile field for discussion. But the entire site is vibe enforcement. And it's, with how many communities there are on Reddit, if smaller communities wanted to practice vibe enforcement according to whatever their values are, that wouldn't bug me as much. Because all you'd need to do is build another community. But every single Reddit community enforces the same sort of vibe. And the vibe they enforce is this hybrid, populist, totalitarian Twitteriness. Or I guess blue skyness now, but it's still Twittery. What you're expected to do on Reddit, in any community on Reddit, is subject yourself to this humiliation ritual by which you champion in embarrassing ways the rightness of whatever the group thinks. And again, this isn't restricted to specific communities, because in any community you are championing the same groupthink values. These other communities are more like different flavors of the same shit. The communities and the interests they're supposed to be built around don't matter. Let's say you are into a game and you've joined a Reddit community based around this game. The game doesn't matter. The game is the vehicle by which you worship groupthink. You do it in a this gamey sort of way. Because maybe there are cool Reddit communities, I haven't found any. Every single one of them expects you to conduct yourself in this lame, self-flagellating, weird way. And I think that the purpose of that is to condition people to act that weird, self-humiliating, self-flagellating way widely and in real life. To get this mindset into your head. This is the way you're supposed to be. You don't matter. All that matters is what the group says matters. Or says you're supposed to be. And that's another thing. They framed themselves like this hyper-individualistic community. And at first glance, it looks like people are being neoliberal in the most obnoxious ways possible. Obnoxiously individualistic. But you notice pretty quickly, you're allowed to be an individual only insofar as your individuality conforms with what the group thinks. what the group wants you to do. So, in fact, you're getting neither. You both are not an individual and also not part of a collective that values you in any way. And I think when you're trying to use Reddit, you recognize the value a platform like Reddit should hold. The ability to gather and communicate about anything. That's powerful. So maybe because you believe in this power you think this platform has, you try to do the humiliation ritual, thinking this is your entry fee to access the value. And maybe it works. Maybe your humiliation ritual, your self flagellation application gets accepted. But then you realize there is no next step. There is no value. There's no communication happening. This shitty thing you just did is all there is, and that's all you're able to do. There is no value to be extracted here. There's no communication to communicate. You've been honeypotted. And it's for that reason I don't understand why Reddit stays popular. Oh, and that was the other thing. There are no alternatives. That's another thing that really irritates me. You can still build your own communities. That's what people used to do. Make your own websites or groups on other platforms. But those were niche then, and they're only more niche now. Now that these massive hyper platforms rule everything. And if you're someone who's unfamiliar with the channel, with this vibes shit, you might assume I'm looking for a platform that champions the inverse of Reddit's huggy-feely shit. But I'm not, and that's because Reddit's huggy-feely shit isn't huggy-feely shit. Because again, huggy-feely shit implies some kind of substance. You are at least pushing something. But Reddit doesn't like huggy-feely shit. Reddit likes conformity. That conformity might wear a huggy-feely mask, but I suggest you try to do anything of huggy-feely substance on that platform. They don't like it. This is one example of many over the years. I come from a nonprofit background. Homelessness is a great fear and social concern to me. I wanted to put together a homelessness resource, not even attempting to be the homelessness resource, not saying any other homelessness resources were bad, but my brain, I guess, isn't wired right, because none of the resources available, none of their resources made sense to me. None of the resources I looked for made sense to me. Because what I was looking for was a homelessness strategy guide, beginning with the reasons people become homeless, common causes, maybe even some niche causes, feelings people might be dealing with, and then going step by step through this, what to do, what not to do, what certain words mean so people can't trick you, what to watch out for, and then ending with finding housing. I still can't find a resource that does that. Even within homelessness nonprofits. I'm sure, I know, that knowledge is out there, but there isn't one option for a comprehensive how to deal with this thing. And my proposal or my humiliation ritual was, I'll do all the work. The information will come only from people who have dealt with homelessness firsthand, and they get the final say on everything. All they would need to do is answer questions and to direct when and where they think direction is needed. And the final product would be completely for free. The community could take credit. Maybe something good would come out of it. They were all so hostile, so quickly. That one still stands out in my head a year later. Really ugly. And I still don't really have a homelessness plan. I'm picking up bits and pieces of information here and there, but there's still no net. Not even an option for a net. No wasteland survival guide. And that episode was weird on top of the hostility because there were other less hostile people who were still shaming me in Reddity ways, and when I pressed them on it, they admitted they didn't know why what I was doing was wrong and evil and predatory, but it must be because other people are saying it. And that's one of the problems I think Reddit inflicts on society. It trains this groupthink, yes, but worse, Reddit sets the tone for what the group will be thinking. And there is a uniformity to the agenda Reddit sets, but I don't know who is in charge of setting it. All I know is if you don't come in and subject yourself underneath the Reddit status quo, you'll have problems. It's not a community or discussion platform. It's a seeing people whipping themselves so you join them in whipping yourself platform. I don't understand how it stays popular, but you see its effects everywhere. Maybe that's what Reddit is supposed to do. Reddit is a mimetic status quo enforcer. Or if whoever sets the agenda wants something to happen, Reddit is a status quo adjuster. Because again, I don't take issue with any specific community. It's the way all their communities operate. They all run the same way toward the same ends. And within all this, you would expect a site like 4chan to be different or better, but 4chan is the exact same thing. 4chan is like Reddit for retards, another link in the same chain. Reddit targets normal people, 4chan targets edgy normal people. Maybe it's information control. Well, I mean, it is information control, but I mean in a preventative fashion. Wanting people not to be able to figure anything out. Because on any platform, that's where I run into issues. The moment you go somewhere with the intention of figuring things out, you run into big problems. The only reason we've been able to figure anything out on this channel is because we have access to people on this channel. And this isn't a big channel, but it's the only pool of people I can draw from when I want to figure something out. If you try to tap into any other pools, you have problems. And as much as I think this is a from the top initiative, you do see issues with individuals, especially on Reddit, but everywhere. Almost nobody likes the idea of investigating or compiling information. Nobody. And I don't know why that is. I could maybe understand it if you felt it was an attack on this status quo you have been brainwashed to worship, but if this status quo is so sacred and so unassailable, then what's with this fear and hostility toward people checking? I think that comes from a fear, people's fear that other people will be misled, because you'll notice dealing with people today, it feels like everyone is trying to convince you to join their cult, which is why you need your own cult. We are already deep in that. But going back to large scale from small scale, I think it's part of the plan. People are obsessed with other people's thinking what they think. Because when you have a population that does that, you have a population that protects your agenda for you. It's not the investigating that's the problem. It's the capacity of investigation to change minds. That's why anything that could even not even really challenge the status quo is the thing, but exist as something not the status quo, that is all misinformation. It's misinformation because it leeches potential resources from the status quo. That's why the whole flat earther thing has been so confusing to me for as long as this has been going on. Why is that one of the big things everybody focuses on? That feels like its own status quo reinforcement. You make the majority, or show to people who are not part of the majority, these other people believing in something that is completely fucking dumb, both to get people into the majority or to reinforce the status quo among people who are already in the majority, and then to make a mental monument, saying, this is how stupid you look if you don't believe in what the majority believes. Now, I believe the earth is round, but I don't believe self-flagellation, communal self-flagellation, and hostility toward any form of questions is a good idea. And see, that's the other thing about Reddit. They can't allow people they disagree with, which can be as simple as trying to be positive in a way they don't like, to exist. If you don't like them, tell them to fuck off. What they do away from you shouldn't be any of your business. And you can take that and go in the, well, Reddit can do what Reddit wants because it's Reddit. And I agree with that, actually. One of my little prides in life has been to maintain the position people and companies should be allowed to do whatever they want to do internally as long as they aren't imposing on other people. Like formerly Twitter. You don't want certain people on your platform? Fine. That's your business and your decision. And despite all this shit I've been talking about in this video, that's still the case with Reddit, and I still believe that for Reddit. Reddit has the right to be as Reddity as it wants to be, but other people have the right to say they are creepy and shitty and a poison to the population. Mainly, I am ass mad. I'm powerless against the CIA's psyops. CIA or any intelligence agency, please hire me. I'll throw the population under the bus in a second for pleasure, and also if I'm able to know the things I want to know or to have the resources to try to know the things I want to know. I don't need to share information with anybody. All I want is to know it and to be able to use it. Or to share it with the organization that has maybe even hired me to gather it. I'm a patriot. Let me join the inner party. Please. I'll be like Dim from A Clockwork Orange. Turn me into an info goon. This has been a good talking therapy session. We started with the surface, superficial, false anger. I hate Reddit and Reddit is awful. Although both those things are true. And finally have arrived at the truth of the matter, which is anger at the fact I don't get to serve my country by glowing in the dark and seeking the deeper mysteries. And, that's the thing. I don't even mind being an object. In life, my goal isn't to be the sole or to become the sole subject. I'll be an object, but permit me the chance to be a higher object. In summary, Reddit is creepy and stinky. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.